What do you think? Against this Paladin deck, I'm thinking Mage. I really am at this point.
I absolutely agree with you. His Mage deck can use quite a bit of damage right now, and there it is. Okay, so let's actually talk about this Mage deck. This Mage deck is entitled Add Fuel. So it starts right off Frost Bolts, Blood Mage Thalnos, so we can get that extra power.
There's the Thalnos right there, and he gets the coin as well, so he can coin right into that one.
Yes.
I can't imagine he's going to toss that from his opening hand. The other stuff, maybe not so much. I think he tosses his Fireball, and maybe his Dark Iron Dwarf. I'd probably hold on to the Yeti because it's a really good solid drop regardless. Dark Iron Dwarf earlier kind of relies on having a creature that you can really buff that will actually be useful, as opposed to Artosis, who is going to mulligan his entire hand.
That's right. True Silver Champion is really, really nice, and sometimes it is worthy of including in your opening hand just to ensure that you get it. But if you have no board presence, no early cards or anything like that, it's better just to cycle those out. Now, Trump is making his decisions right now. I agree with you on the Chillwind Yeti. Chillwind Yeti is awesome because it has 5 health. It can absorb not just the Argent Commander that we saw before, but it can absorb any number of 4-drops. So that is an extremely valuable card.
All right, let's see the mulligan. So a Bloodsail Raider, Imp Master, and Argent Protector. Not a terrible opening hand there by Artosis, honestly. It's fine. Obviously, Bloodsail Raider is a pretty standard creature, but it gets better if there's a weapon out. Now, of course, there's not going to be one at this particular stage, so he's just basically playing a 2-3, and the mad trash talking is coming out right here by Artosis.
Yeah, clearly, these guys are the worst-mannered players by far, obviously.
For those of you who don't know, that is the most offensive thing you can possibly say with the emote system in Postando.
Yes, it is a very mannered system. So let's see, he did, interesting choice as Trump actually decided not to coin Blood Mage Thalnos.
Yeah.
Blood Mage Thalnos, he wants to be able to reserve it, at least it looked like it first, for the spell damage, but Blood Mage Thalnos is so nice just because even if it gets killed out, even if it gets sent away, it still gets replaced with another card. Yeah.
It's kind of like a weird loot hoarder in the sense that it's got the reason why it's 1/1 instead of 2/1 like the loot hoarder is it's got +1 spell power.
That's right.
Ultimately, early game that's not necessarily that helpful, but he's still a really good card to play because of that card draw and because he's useful in a lot of different situations. But like played as a general card, he's not necessarily the best. But you know that should work pretty well. So the 2/3s right out here for Artosis. I mean, he could just go straight for the Imp Master and then get rid of Thalnos immediately, but that is going to give a card advantage to Trump if he does that.
Yeah, I still think the benefits are worth it, though, because there are a lot of powerful spells inside of the Mage deck that we see here from Trump.
You absolutely can't leave the Mage deck alone, not with that. And Artosis doesn't know what's in it either. We do, and we know that stuff like Arcade Missiles, which benefits from very early Blood Mage Thalnos, it's not in the deck. He's got a bunch of Frostballs. Out comes the Value Yeti.
That's right, and this Yeti, of course, would be able to trade with everything that's on the board right now.
That's why it's the Value Yeti.
Yes.
It's absolutely fantastic. A lot of people ignored this very early on in Hearthstone, and Trump was actually the one to popularize it, really, by saying, look, it costs 4 mana, it's 4/5. The way that stats are kind of built in the current set of cards that we've got, this guy will trade really, really well.
Yes.
He's hard to get rid of. He's a real pain. And even though he has no special abilities, he's a very powerful card to play.
And if you don't take him out right now, he's going to start trading individually with every one of those valuable minions. That Imp Master's gone next turn. Then it's going to be the Pirate right after that.
I wonder if he'd burn Inequality just to do that. It's a possibility. But
yeah, actually, considering he's sitting on 2 and he knows that he has confirmed that he has it for the later part of the game, I actually don't think that's too bad of an idea.
Yeah. Getting the Sword of Justice out right now would slow him down a little bit too much. So there you go. Now he's going to trade the Imp for the Yeti. There we go. And he's going to be able to tickle his opponent just a little bit there with 2/1s. Unfortunately, Equality is also going to kill out his Imp Master, which is why it's not the best. And he wasn't able to use his Imp Master alongside his Sword of Justice. So it's not ideal. And the Imp Master unceremoniously explodes.
That's right. Now, Trump's Mage deck is not just your typical AoE spell deck. It's not full of Flame Strikes. It's not full of the Arcane
Flame Strikes in that deck.
You're right.
Flame Strike is actually something that the current meta says you don't take it because everyone expects you to take it.
Correct.
So people are saying, oh, no, there's going to be Flame Strikes. But no, there's actually none in the deck. Fairy Dragon comes out. Really interesting card, that one, because it's a 3/2, but you can't directly target it with spells or hero powers. True Silver Champion, on the other hand, is very good at targeting it. So will he go for the True Silver Champion, or will he go Sword of Justice into either an Argent Protector, which wouldn't make a huge amount of sense with what he's got on the board, or into an Initiate, which would become a 2/2 minion, which is also pretty fine.
And I'm looking at the Paladin deck here from Artosis, and there are no Hammer of Rats, just to point out. So he doesn't have that 3 direct damage anyway to be able to deal with anything. So there we go. Sword of Justice, of course, it is, for those of you who are new to Hearthstone, it is a 3-mana 1/5 weapon that states that whenever you play a minion, you decrease 1 durability from the Sword of Justice, and it gives your minion 1/1, or +1/+1 that you just summoned.
Yeah, and because it's got high durability, a lot of players have elected to start using it to swing at weak minions, because they're okay with losing one of those durability in order to take a minion off the board, because that is viewed as a little bit more valuable. All right, well, Artosis is sitting on a good amount of options, but an Azure Drake just came on the field, and that gives card advantage there to Trump, who has not taken too much damage yet. He's in a much better position. It's not snowballing out of his control in the way that it did previously. So Defender of Argus is a possible play, but it's not an amazing one.
Well, and Artosis has a decision to make right now. I think he's correctly predicted what kind of deck this is. He was controlling the board pretty well. He knew that this wasn't just the super spell-heavy mage deck, so he's been slowly kind of pushing his advantage on the board and not just throwing creatures out like we saw in the last game. That being the case now, there is a possibility to do something like throw up Defender of Argus and then just have the Azure Drake suicide into those. No, he's actually going to get rid of the Sword of Justice and just True Silver Champion out this Azure Drake right now. I
absolutely agree with that decision, honestly. He needs that 4/4 out immediately before it benefits anything. Because bear in mind, that's also got spell power on it as well, which could be a nightmare. He doesn't know exactly what spells his opponent's got. So I agree with that. Yes, he burned his Sword of Justice a bit early, but it made more sense against the deck that he's up against. All right, so that now leaves Trump in a situation where he's got nothing on the board. He's not up against particularly strong minions, but there's a good number of them, and they're going to be a bit of a pain to remove. He's been a little bit unlucky not to pull up Blizzard so far. He's got 2 of them. A Blizzard would be reasonably useful here. Not amazing because there's a Divine Shield out, and that guy's 3/3. If he'd been able to keep this Azure Drake alive, it would have been fantastic. But as it stands, he's going to have to start getting rid of stuff. Now, Frostbolt is going to let him get rid of that 3/3 very easily. That recently got changed to a 2-mana spell as opposed to a 3. It's going to bring out an Acolyte of Pain as well, which is a good choice against what's on the board here.
That's right, because it's you want to really reserve True Silver Champion. A Tyrian Forging. We'll talk about that in a second. So True Silver Champion, you really want to be able to swing away at 4 health minions that also do a fair bit of attack as well, just so you can clear the board very efficiently. The problem is right now that Acolyte of Pain draws cards every time it takes damage, so you want to be able to kill it with 1 fell swoop. So Artosis has the decision. Does he go right after that Acolyte of Pain and give up the 4 damage and clear the board and make sure his opponent only draws 1 card, or does he take it out in a little bit more piecemeal fashion and give his opponent 2 cards?
Yeah, it's a difficult idea. I can't imagine he's going to want to allow Trump to extend his card advantage any more than it already is. But he doesn't want to leave the Acolyte of Pain on the board either. If he does, then what Trump's going to start to be able to do is he's actually going to start attacking his own minion. He's going to use his Fire Blast to do damage to the Acolyte of Pain. Every time it takes a hit, the Acolyte of Pain causes a card to be drawn.
Now, he could always, like, there's crazy weird plays he could do here, too. Like, he could actually, like, Equality and then just take it out for 1.
I mean, I maybe
and then reserve the True Silver Champion.
I'd maybe go Defender of Argus, which buffs that up to 3/3, use the Divine Shield, kill that in 1 hit. I mean, you can silence it if you feel like you really need to, but ultimately you would want to hold on to that Spellbreaker for something a little bit more potent than that.
Yeah, and the Defender of Argus is not bad right now, but of course, if Artosis decides to do that, he knows he doesn't know his opponent's deck. He doesn't know if there's Flame Strikes in there or not, and this does set him up for a pretty bad Flame Strike if he were to actually use all this. No, he uses the True Silver Champion on the
He values his Divine Shield more. Yeah, it's as simple as that. And that is the correct thing to do against a Mage, because if a Blizzard comes out, or indeed a Flame Strike, as you were talking about, since the mana, he's got the mana now, Trump will be sitting on 7 mana. If Flame Strike were to happen, that would have wiped the board entirely. As it stands, there are no Flame Strikes in the deck. Artosis, of course, doesn't know that, but leaving that Divine Shield up allows that to survive the Flame Strike. So I think he made the right decision in that respect. And now he's got a great board. The question is, what can Trump bring out? Still no Blizzards coming out of that deck. Still nothing really big enough to justify a Polymorph. He can get good value creatures out on the board, but as we've seen from Artosis, he'll rapidly start to apply that pressure in a big way.
And it looks like we're just going to see a Harvest Golem with the Defender of Argus. That's going to make that Harvest Golem into a 3/4 with Taunt, which means that none of the creatures that are on the board right now for Artosis can 1-for-1 that.
All right, Tyrian Forging is available to play if he wants to play it right now. And honestly, aside from, I would say maybe a Silence there, he can still go Sword of Justice and go for an Initiate after that. So that would work okay. I was maybe expecting him to hold on to it, but he does want to silence that. That knocks out the Taunt, the Death Rattle, and everything else. So that is an absolutely fantastic thing to do there. That's now a 5/4. Trump is in, again, a lot of trouble. This deck is incredible. right here from Artosis. It's incredibly good.
I've got to admit, though, he's made the right decision every time, though. It's, you know, a part of it is the deck you put together, but we've got to give a lot of credit here to just pure Artosis' playstyle, because he is playing this methodically, he is playing this well, he's always made the right decision, and now, given what we saw out of Trump's cards, he needs a Blizzard or bust right now.
He really, really does, and even if he does get a Blizzard, that's only going to delay the inevitable. Bear that one in mind. Tyrion Fordring still... There's the Blizzard. He top decks what he needs.
Okay, so he can ping the Divine Shield out, or he can actually just Blizzard right now, run into it with the Defender Vargas, start taking things out, or he can just reserve his minions back for a little while, continue to buff them. He's got options right now.
It's going to keep him alive, thank God. You know,
yes.
That's what he needed, because otherwise he was going to take lethal damage next turn. Blizzard isn't going to kill everything, it's going to kill a good amount, but more importantly, it also freezes the remaining minions in place so they can't attack next turn, which gives him the chance to start to turn the game around. And let's be honest, massive card advantage in favor of Trump here. If he can clear that board, and if he can stay alive, he's in a good spot. But we know what's in that hand. We know there's a Tyrion Fordring hanging around, and even if that thing dies, if it doesn't get silenced, then it can end up giving the Ashbringer to Artosis, and then he is just going to absolutely destroy it. But we know what's in Trump's hand.
Bingo, polymorph.
Exactly. So it would be an unwise idea, and I think Artosis knows that. He knows, oh, the Mage has got like 8 cards. There must be a polymorph in there somewhere. I can't risk playing something like Fordring, because polymorph is the one card that absolutely neutralizes it.
That's absolutely right. And unless we see something else absolutely ridiculous in here, that polymorph's actually not going to come out. So Trump's doing a nice job of reserving that for now. So let's start doing a little bit of math. If he pings the 3/3 with Divine Shield, which he is doing, then Blizzards, he'll be able to run into a couple of creatures right afterwards, and even be able to get out that 5/4 Spellbreaker if he so desires. And it looks like that's what he's going to go for.
So he's going to trade that over right there. So he's looking at the Sword of Justice and thinking, you know, what's going to come out here. I'm obviously trading the 3/3 for the 5/2 is absolutely the right decision. All right. So Trump has pretty much cleared that board for the most part. Consecrate, that is not really going to help him. He's got no minions to play with the Sword of Justice, so he's relying on Initiates only. He really doesn't want to risk playing Fordring because he knows his opponent has a polymorph possibly, but Fordring is coming out.
Play. I mean, that's a problem.
Yeah, he has nothing else to play. So he's got to kind of take that risk. Fordring is now on the field, and now he's about to cry.
Yeah, watch what happens here. The Polymorph, of course, is a 4-mana card, which turns any minion into a 1/1 sheep, and then he can follow that right up with his hero power and blast that down. So there goes the Polymorph.
Oh, dear.
Fordring is out.
That is a golden sheep.
Yes.
By which, that's the way that you get the golden fleece, obviously.
Oh, clearly, yes. There we have, so 1/1 sheep. We still have that Sword of Justice sitting on 1/3 right now. Let's go ahead. The golden sheep, I love the animation in the background. Let's go ahead and take a look at Artosis' side here in a second, just see what he drew into. Looks like he's just going to reinforce now. That is going to, of course, proc that one more time. And it is a true silver champion.
All right, okay. Well, that's pretty damn good, because if he's able to get his opponent down to low health, he's going to do that. He's going to go right into the true silver champion and say, I am not afraid of you, I'm going to rush you down. Bear in mind the Consecrate is in his hand right here.
Yes.
So that's a little bit of extra guaranteed damage. Trump's going to make this happen now. He's got to get that board clear. He's got to get those creatures out. And Trump knows he's in a bit of trouble here. He does have that Blizzard, so he can wipe that out. But here's the thing. True Silver Champion's got one more swing.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, I think he's dead. He's got... No, he's... does Blizzard affect minions only, right?
I mean, he can potentially Azure Drake and try and draw a card to get out of this, but with the cards that he has right now, he cannot win the game. He has to be able to find another. He has to be able to find another card.
Yeah, that I think is going to be very true indeed. Azure Drake is coming out. He's going to have to play for the other cards. Loot Hoarder is not the card that he really needed there, and that, I think, is going to be that. That True Silver Champion is just there, and there's nothing else in his deck that's going to keep him alive. GG, ladies and gentlemen, 2-0 for Artosis.